Welcome, everybody, to PinstripeChronicles podcast. I'm Tats. I'm here with Donald and Rob, and you are listening to us on sportname.com/player for SportsWire Radio. And the rumor mill is starting to close in a little bit as ESPN is reporting that the Yankees are close to making a decision of bringing back Aaron Boone. And I am not sure how I want to take this. I really don't. Is it better to know that, is it better to have the devil you know than the devil you don't if they try to go after somebody new? Or what's the coaching staff going to look like? Is Matt Blake going to survive this? Who I think is the only coach that should. I think they should, even the bat boy needs to be replaced at this point. But Donald, what's your take on the this wonderful news that you've been waiting for?
Hello, darkness, my old friend. If people listening to us right now, you can see my face. I'm slowly dying inside this news. This is a terrible day, and I need time. Come back to me.
It's still possible that this is, it might not happen. And until it happens, I'm going to hold hope that it doesn't. But we all know that, at least with Boone, we know what we're getting. We're getting incompetence.
What, a terrible manager? We know what we're getting.
But all they're going to do is they're going to bring in another person. They're going to bring in another Boone. It's going to be somebody that Cashman and the analytics department pull the strings on. At least I just want Matt Blake to survive. That's all I could really say, because I think he was the only one that was not the problem. The pitch, it was our hitting. Maybe bringing back a new hit. Maybe bringing in a new hitting coach is a way to go.
Rob, what's your anything, man? This is all organizational philosophy, though.
Exactly.
Marcus Thames is not a good batting coach, but the players like him. But the thing is, it doesn't really matter because it's an organizational philosophy. They're asking him to tell the players only to have an uppercut swing, only shoot for the moon. That's what they're doing. They're only following what organizational philosophy is. So it doesn't really matter who the fucking batting coach is. It doesn't matter who the manager is, because the manager is just going to answer to Brian Cashman, Don Cashman, who sent out his mafia media cronies to go and send out an unbelievable PR thing for Aaron Boone. It's been incredible PR that I've never seen before. Joe Girardi won us a championship. I never got any PR from him, ever. There was never any PR. Joe Girardi's won the Yankees a championship, but they're discussing his future. Nope, never been that way. It was like, right, okay, no one seemed to care. Joe Torre was one of the greatest coaches and managers in baseball history, and there was nothing like this. Since Aaron Boone got fired, it's been an unbelievable. Since Aaron Boone's contract went out, it's been an unbelievable PR. Unbelievable amount of PR. Buster Olney, his buddy, all these people just coming out. Oh, Boone's great. Not Boone's fault. Stop it. It's just this is just PR. It's Brian Cashman. I'm just so sick and disgusted with this organization.
It goes to everyday life. Why being a man? Just because you're in the spotlight more as an athlete or a manager of athletes doesn't mean that the way the role of being the boss changes. If I can't get my guys to perform to a certain level, that falls on me. I don't just say, well, I told them to do that. I didn't tell them to do that. I told them to do it this way. I'm still held accountable for it as a supervisor. Boone's got to be held to the same standard. I'm sorry. He's no better than anybody else because he's in the spotlight. But because, like you said, Donald, he's got Buster Olney and all his cronies. And I think it's funny that this came from ESPN, of all places.
Of course.
Now, let's not let that slide. So, their mission is accomplished. And I think it's because they don't want him back in the booth.
No, he's got buddies at ESPN, and I love that Buster Olney yesterday was reporting that the San Diego Padres were interested in Aaron Boone. I'm telling you,
that's what I said. I'm like, road trip
to that. That was Boone's agent. Trying to drum up interest. That was probably the Yankees organization sending out mock interest in order to make him look more appealing than he actually is. I mean, you have to read between the lines here. You have to read between the lines. It's whether the agent or whoever it is, there's no truth to that.
Sorry, Boone does
Why
not
would the
scream to me.
Padres be interested in him? He's been a disaster here. And I'm not interested in his winning percentage. That was the first thing that Buster Olney tweeted is when the Yankee fans went insane that they wanted Boone fired. He was like, oh, Aaron Boone's got a blah, 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 winning percentage. Who cares? I don't care.
Yeah.
So this is all just
where are the rings to go with it? Where are the rings to go with
exactly.
it? There are none. Rob, your take.
Rob.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I can be as mad as I want, but I'm not surprised at all. This is why I've been harping on the fact that I want Cashman gone, because it will tell me that the organization actually gives a shit, but they don't. As long as Cashman's here, this is his teams, and he's going to have his manager. What I think is going to happen is Boone is going to be back, Blake will be back, everybody else will be replaced with a coach like Matt Blake. So the whole computer analytical approach, that's what they're going to use, and hope that what Matt Blake did for the pitching staff, the new hitting coach can do for this lineup. But does it really matter when Cashman is looking for a specific player? I would buy into this if they were to bring in more versatile players to round out this lineup. But we know that in all actuality, the team is almost set next year, if you really, really think about it. The outfield is under contract already. The infield is already under contract, except for maybe a shortstop, which technically they could go into next year with the exact same infield and just replace Rizzo with anybody they find fit. So the team is almost set. Do I really feel like they're going to make any changes necessary to win next year? Probably not. So the fact that Boone will be back, not surprising. They're going to go with Boone, a new coaching staff, and say, we did it. We had a really good second half with this team. Let's try to do it again. And we're going to be doing this again next year, saying, change it up, give us some changes, tear the whole thing down. We're just going to go through this endless cycle where I'm going to end up drinking bleach, and it's just going to end up, ruining my life being a Yankee fan. I'm so spoiled. I get it, but it's the truth.
No, there's nothing spoiled, man. We've not won anything since 2009. We are not spoiled at all.
We're stuck in a loop.
Yes, we are.
Loop of misery and it comes from the top. I like Brian Cashman, but I want a new operation here, because that's the only way we're going to get these changes that we're seeking. And I'm not saying they have to be, everything's got to be contact. I don't want 9 DJ LeMahieu's, but I want balance. I want a competitive team. And I'm not going to be like, look what the Rays are doing, because the Rays just got bounced out by the team that bounced us out. Boston is a good example of how to do it, because they didn't have some monumental teardown. They traded one player, and they had to trade that guy to get rid of David Price. That's because they didn't get a ton for Mookie Betts. Everyone was like, oh, they got so much. They got Verdugo, who's good, but Jeter Downs had a down year, no pun intended, in AAA. And the other guy, we saw him for like 13 at-bats this season. So it's not like they got this monumental haul. So I think people need to pump the brakes on the whole trade Aaron Judge, do what the Red Sox did thing, because they got a very smart guy in their office, Bloom. We don't really have that right now with Cashman. Nope. He thinks he is, but he's not. So we
remember when Brian Cashman gave that wishy-washy response about Aaron Boone? I've made my bed, we'll just have to lie with in it kind of response. That's a suboptimal response. But if you read between the lines, that tells me that Cashman's tied to him. He basically, there's no way that he can remove him, because he made this choice in order for the organization to go in this direction. And if he was to move on from Aaron Boone, that would be him admitting that he made a huge mistake and he screwed us. And he can't admit that, right? So he's going to be tied to Brian Cashman for the duration of Brian Cashman's tenure here. We can only hope that when his contract runs out next year, that the Yankees finally grab some balls and move on from Brian Cashman, and then in turn, that'll be Aaron Boone gone. So we might only have to suffer this for one more year. Will I bet my house on it? No, I wouldn't, because this is the Yankees. They don't want to make changes. They're afraid to make changes. They are an organization stuck in the loop, as you say. But I don't think Brian Cashman is as in love with Aaron Boone as maybe you'd think. I think he's exactly what he's looking for in a manager. So he just goes along with that. And he doesn't also want to admit that he made a huge, huge, huge mistake that screwed the organization for 4 years.
The only thing I can think of is they've tested the waters a little bit, in this last week because Cashman's one of those, he's very secret on the phone. You never know what he's up to. Who knows? He might have been trying to reach out to some people that, that would be interested in the job, and he really hasn't had much luck. And he's like, all right, well, let me make sure that if I need to, I can bring Boone back if nobody else, grabs our attention.
But why would there be such a PR fucking incredible amount of PR in his favor then? Otherwise, it's a response to the fan base, bro. That's why there's been an insane amount of PR, because the Yankees aren't stupid. They know that the fans, 99% of the fans, are going to riot with Aaron Boone coming back. He's despised here. He's absolutely despised, and they know it. But they're not going to make any changes. So we just got every media guy coming out. We had Joe Torre come out. We had all the guys coming out telling us how great Aaron Boone is. This is not just spur of the moment, bro. This is not some media guy going, no, I'm just going to write about Aaron Boone here. No, this is a directive. I don't know who it is. It's directing them to do it. It might be the Yankees PR guy. It might be Zillow. It might be Cashman. I don't know who it is, but it is deliberate. Trust me on that. Rob, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's oddly convenient, right? The entire fan, pretty much all of baseball agrees on one thing when it comes to the Yankees, that Aaron Boone isn't very good at his job, yet like half of the baseball writers come out and defend the guy. Well, his winning percentage is so-and-so. Well, that's great and all. I'll take as many 100 win seasons as you can give me.
Yeah, but like I said the other day.
Rob, let him speak. Rob, finish your point.
I'm sorry, Tats. I'm just saying, if those 100 win seasons don't end with a ring, I don't care. I'll take a 99 win season or a 95 win season. If it ends with a ring, that's all that matters. So you can take your winning percentage, take it into the bathroom, and flush it down the toilet with the rest of your shit for the day, because I don't want to hear it. We haven't won since 2009, and we haven't won with Aaron Boone. We've underachieved every single year with a World Series contending roster with Aaron Boone at the helm. This team can win a World Series. I don't want to hear that we're this broken team and we can't win games. When you look at this roster, that's a World Series contending roster. Why are we not playing that way?
But that's what.
Go ahead. Now you can go ahead, Tats.
That's what makes it so puzzling. You come in as a manager to a team that was one game away from a World Series, and by the end of your 4 years, you're scraping for a wild card spot. That says enough, because Yankee fans would rather have an 85 win team in a World Series than a 112 win team and no ring.
And the thing is, we're talking about rings, but let's be honest, not even been close. We're not close. We technically didn't even make the playoffs this year. We got knocked out in the play-in round. Last year, we finished 6 games above 500, and we pretty much got whitewashed by Tampa Bay in the DS. So that's 2 years we've not even been remotely close to sniffing a ring. Yeah. We're not even in the conversation of ring.
Well, that's why I said with Boone at the helm, this team has gone backwards. Is it all his fault? No, it's not.
No, it's not.
No. So it's not like we're saying that everything that's gone wrong is Boone's fault. But like I said, if Boone's going to have that title of manager, he's the face of the problem.
Yeah. He wears the problem. He's got to be the blame, but that's the easy way out. When you really think about it, you got to blame his boss. It's Brian Cashman.
It's the whole department. It's the whole front office.
Hal, right? People want to blame Hal Steinbrenner for this. He's not making these decisions. He's not. He's just putting the money into whatever money they budget the team every year, because now we have a budget. That's Hal's job. Brian Cashman runs this team. That dork Randy Levine runs this team. This is what we have running this organization because they're so stuck in this loop that, oh, well, if we just use analytics, we're going to catch up with the rest of the league in this new age of baseball. Well, we don't do that very well. So the Dodgers do it perfectly because that's why they're in contention every single year. They spend money, one, and they use analytics well. The Rays don't spend to use analytics well. They're at least winning. They're not winning championships, but they're closer. The Red Sox, they spend money, they use analytics well, and they're going to the ALCS. The Astros, despite the fact that they've cheated, look where they're about to be again this year. Without Greinke, Verlander, without Cole, they're about to go to another ALCS. So there are reasons why coaching matters in this sport, and we do not have a good coaching staff.
Now they went old school with Dusty Baker, and I think he's actually done a very decent job with Houston.
And they also have a very good pitching coach in Brent Strom. He's amazing. Their staff,
he's really good.
Yeah, the whole staff in general is good. They got a good team.
One thing
go ahead.
To take it to Boston real quick, when we're talking about how managers do matter, if you've watched any of those innings where they were putting up runs, and they show Alex Cora in the dugout, he's jumping and cheering like he's a fan of his first baseball game. He's not sitting there just blowing bubbles like our manager does. He's really invested in his players, and he's into it. That's what we want. We want a guy like that.
Yeah, players run through a wall for him. They run through a wall for him.
There's a reason why he came right back after suspension.
Exactly. We've just got a friendly neighborhood Boone that everybody just wants to be pals with, but no one will run through a wall for him. And you can see it in the performances. Obviously when the media are always going, oh, it's not Boone's fault. It's not Boone's fault, right? Okay, so let's look at what a manager or a coach in any sport, what are they judged on, right? They're judged on performance. They're judged on making the most of the talent that's there. It's known for development, developing the players, developing the younger players, all these things, tactics, accountability. All those things are what we're looking for in a manager in whatever sport, right? And that's all the things that Aaron Boone does really badly because all the players have regressed under him. There's no doubt about it. All the young players have regressed under him. The performances are spotty. They're not focused, and the in-game management is frankly bizarre at times. So there's really no excuse to be that defensive about Aaron Boone. What he's done is a very bad job, or at least very mediocre, but for the Yankees, that's very bad.
Exactly. You look at the teams that are still remaining in the postseason, and the managers have personality. They have a passion for the game. They have a feel for the game. The ones that are relying solely on analytics. Look at let's take Kevin Cash. We give him a lot of praise during the regular season. He gets a lot out of his players, but I think when it comes to the Rays into the postseason, I think they're so overanalyzed. They stub their toe when they really need to just have a feel for the game. They should not have been handled by Boston the way they were, the way that they were playing throughout the whole season. It's just that's why. When it comes to with the managers in the American League, Cora actually gets a little bit of an edge over Cash, as well as Cash does with the budget that he's given. Cora he just gets everything out of his players, and we're stuck with a guy that wants to have a feel for the game. He should have a feel for the game, but is not allowed to have a feel for the game.
You just hit the nail on the head, man. Listen, Cora and Cash make more out of less. Aaron Boone has got a bunch of stars on this roster. If you can't win with semi-MVP years from Judge, Giancarlo, and a semi-Cy Young Award leading year for Garrett Cole, you cannot win with that, and you have to scrape by a game just to make the wild card with that. then there's something wrong with you. Who else are we going to look at? Well, we're going to look at Brian Cashman, 100%, but then you got to look at you too, because we've had 3 really good years, right? I know that fans are all angry at Garrett Cole right now, but he had a very strong year, and Stanton had an insane year, and so did Judge. And guess what? We didn't even deserve to make the playoffs. Didn't even deserve to make the wild card. Let's be fair, right? So who else do we look at? It has to be management, but there's no accountability in this organization, and it's disgusting. It's sickening, and it's tiring.
No, we need somebody in that dugout that's more in tune with the offense. Because with the lineup that we were putting out, to not be in the top 3 in offensive categories in this league is embarrassing. You know, we have this roster that could dominate. We've seen games where they are just clicked in and the opponents have no chance. We've also seen teams come in and be like, all right, and they make it look so easy against our team. It just nothing made sense for them this year when it came to them on the offensive numbers. You know, except for, like you said, you have Judge and Stanton that had, you know, that if it wasn't for Ohtani and Guerrero, would have serious look at MVP. And here we are. They won't. The last month, they had to carry us, and nobody else was able to pick up the baton and say, "Okay, I got this." You know, we don't know what's going on with Voit. We don't know what's going. You know, first base is still a big question mark. Shortstop's a question mark. You know, is the league caught up to Urshela, where now he's just, you know, he's not that wow player. He
is defensively, but he's never been a wow player.
No, yeah, defensively, I'm talking about, you know, with the offense. You know,
but he's never been that type of player.
No, but he had that one good year, and then it was kind of like, all right, and then he was kind of mediocre. You know, so is, you know, maybe a third base is somebody that's, you know, we look at for next year. You know, like Matt Olson, you know, like Evan brought up.
Okay, so let's get into the infield, because you brought up a lot of good points there. I just want to ask, because you were talking about the offense first of all, right? Would you put a lot of this on Tim's, or do you think it's kind of, or do you think it's kind of an organizational thing, man? What could Tim's really do?
I think it's all rolled in. I think it's a whole bunch of bullshit rolled into one. You know, Thames is getting the information from the analytics department. The analytics department is hired by the front office. It all ties in together. But Thames, you know, what you need from a hitting coach, because I know when they're hitting, we never give praise to the hitting coach. It's only the hitting coach's fault when they're failing. Same thing with pitching, you know. And you know, I've tried to do better myself as a fan of giving credit when it's due, and that's why I said Blake has done a phenomenal job with his pitching. But with Thames, he never. It almost seemed like he was just kind of like, you know, rolling through the season. You never saw, you know, him going around working with the players. You know, except for when they were taking batting practice, he's standing there watching. You know,
good work with. I think he worked with Sanchez. Sorry, Rob.
No, the fact that Anthony Rizzo was the one to teach Joey Gallo to step up in the batter's box more kind of says a lot about our coaching. You know, we saw Judge giving Torres crap when he didn't run out to first base. Our coaching isn't holding the players accountable. That's my biggest issue, is when you're a coach or a manager, you've got to step up. I don't care how much money these guys make. You're technically in charge of these guys. You got to set them straight sometimes. And the fact that we're seeing more players doing that for our other players instead of the coaches, why are they there? If that's the case, then when Garrett Cole's not pitching, then he's your pitching coach. If Aaron Judge is off for the day, then he's your hitting coach, because that's basically what we're getting is just players talking to each other. Now, I'm not saying the coaches deserve all the blame. I don't think Tim is the sole reason. It's like you said, this organization wants one thing. Gary Sanchez's scouting report, actually, because somebody posted it on Twitter, it was actually spot on. If you go back and look at his scouting report, everything they said about him has actually happened. He's an all-or-nothing kind of hitter. He's going to struggle defensively. Everything they said about him has actually been true, but then you saw what he was when he came up, and then how quickly that changed. Sanchez, to me, and Torres are the two greatest examples of how this new staff, or whatever you want to call it, has changed this offense. Because why has Torres regressed the way he has? Why was Sanchez so good and then slipped down to that mediocre to below average status in a snap of a finger? You know, when you talk about Urshela earlier, Urshela was hurt this year, so I want to give him a little bit of a slack there. He's been hurt a lot, but he's still a solid player. If he's batting 8th or 9th in your lineup, that's better than a lot of other teams. But that goes back to the point, though, is this lineup is stacked 1 through 9. Even with what we have on roster right now, even if you put Aaron Hicks out there next year and Gallows at first, you know, and your outfield is Stanton, Hicks, Judge, that lineup 1 through 9 is still better than a lot of teams. Why are we struggling to have a plus run differential this year? You know, like that should not happen with this lineup. So yeah, the coaches deserve some blame, but
there's an answer for that though, man. It's unathletic, and it's all or nothing. The entire roster is the one thing. You need to have different types of players. You don't need to all have them all line up trying to do the same thing. You need to have guys that have different roles, that are more contact based, a little bit more athleticism based. But that's what Brian Cashman's been forcing out of the organization. So that's why we've been struggling to create runs. Boston have no problem creating runs. They can do it. They're versatile. They can do a number of things. Tampa Bay, no problem. Yes, they're home run and strikeout because they're all analytical and all that. But they also have athletic, versatile players that can do a number of different things. That's what the Yankees don't have, and that's what Brian Cashman is not interested in. And so we can talk till the cows come home about why we're struggling to score runs and it's Tim's fault. I don't really think there's a lot that he can do. Everyone is asked to do the one thing, and that's try and hit home runs. There's a lot of players that shouldn't be aiming for the moon all the time, like Gleyber Torres. He's got a very nice line drive swing that's been taught out of him. So this is an organizational thing, man. Gary Sanchez, just remember, Ron Blomberg said that in the minors, he was the most impressed with Gary Sanchez because he could hit to all fields. But as soon as he got to the majors, Brian Cashman
changed his approach.
Brian Cashman and his analytical gurus, geniuses that they are, basically got rid of that. So if you want to look at all this, man, I think Tim's is a waste of time talking about him. This is Brian Cashman. It's really that simple. And yes, I despise Aaron Boone more than anything else in the world, but it's actually Brian Cashman. He is the one that is pulling all the strings. He's the one that's destroyed this organization. And so a lot of this is moot, to be honest. So I just don't think there's any point complaining about Tim. He's just doing exactly what he's been asked to.
No, the problem is it's not. Cashman's been pretty good with putting a roster together. It's the leadership in the organization that he's having a problem with.
Well, he also doesn't. Yeah, I don't know, but you're saying that Rizzo took leadership and he was talking to guys, trying to help them. What are the rumors coming out of Yankee camp right now? The Yankee front office don't like Rizzo too much. Oh, I wonder why. I'm telling you, there's something not right here, man. There's something not right here.
That's why I've been saying it all since even before we got eliminated. I want Cashman out of here, but he's not going to be gone this year. Like you said earlier, Donald, it's more than likely if he's gone, it'll be next year. So we're going to have another year of this. And yeah, we might win 100 games next year. We might, if everything goes right. We might go to the ALCS. We might even win a championship. But
no,
that's all it's just nothing's going to change as long as he is there. I don't care about Hal Steinbrenner because he just runs the money. But we need a better front office. We need a better GM. We need a more just open-minded staff around him instead of everything goes through Brian. Because think about it. He has an assistant GM, right? But what are they really doing? What are his staff really doing? It's like that scene in Moneyball where the guy says, he only answers to God or whatever, and we only answer to him. That's our boss, whatever the line is.
Right.
That's basically what's happening there. And this is a team with a budget all of a sudden that can't spend money. I'm not saying spending money is the way to go, but the Yankees can open their pockets if they wanted to bring in the players that they need to fix this team. They just choose not to, and it's kind of handicapping Brian Cashman, but at the same time, he's giving this philosophy. We want these guys to do these kind of swings. We want this guy to be a home run guy. If you have Urshela, Torres, DJ LeMahieu, and whoever in the lineup being line drive hitters, when we say contact, we don't mean hit the ball on the ground. You know, we're not saying everybody has to be Ichiro where you can hit a dribbler to third and get a single. No, contact can mean line drives too. There is something to launch angle that we did not have this year. How many ground balls did LeMahieu hit? Torres, Urshela, all these different guys. That was a big killer. To me, was the ground balls this year.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just everyone's trying to do one thing, and you make one error on your swing. If you're trying to hit the ball 500 feet, one small little kink in your swing forces that launch angle to go all the way down, and then you're hitting the ball on the ground, and there goes your offense. So this plus 40 run differential when Tampa Bay had like plus 150 or whatever, and they're pretty much they're pretty much the same offense, home run or nothing, but their run differential was through the roof compared to ours. They didn't hit the ball on the ground 900 times for double plays and kill any rally chances.
The double plays this year was atrocious. You know, and that's all. It comes right back to the hitting coach. You know, and the coaching in general. It's atrocious, and it seriously needs change, and we're not going to get it. It's, you know, like we said, bringing Boone back just means they're going to just rinse and repeat till I don't even know when it's going to end. This drought is it's not going away. Not with this leadership.
Exactly. It's just going to be another year wasted. Why waste a year when we could actually start rebuilding now? I just don't see the point. But the Yankees are scared. The organization, they're scared to make changes. That's a lot of it. It's a lot. As simple as that, really. They're scared to make changes, and then they need guys to push them up because they're more interested in self-preservation than looking at the actual problems. I mean, you heard Buster only come. I'm really pushing on him because he's been really annoying me lately. But he goes on the Michael Kay show and he was talking about, do you know that Brian Cashman would be picked up within 0.2 seconds by the Mets if he became available? Well, good. I mean, I don't care. That's not what we should be worried about. We should not be worried about how quickly Brian Cashman would be picked up. You know, that's not what it's about. He's been here for 20 years. We're regressing. The talent that he's developing are regressing, and the moves that he's made have not worked.
Well,
So
the same thing was said about Girardi.
And then remember, Boston have had multiple GMs over the last years and come back and still beat us and can win titles. With multiple general managers, they can do that because they're able to rebuild. They're able to take a step back and go, what do I need to change? What do we need to change as an organization to move forward? This is what we need to do. Okay, we need to rebuild. We'll have to suck it up for a year, but we'll go kill the Yankees again next year. And they go and do it. It's not a problem. But the Yankees are scared to do that because they're tied to the fans. They want the chicken buckets. They want the tourists to sit in the Yankee Stadium seats, right? So they're scared to make a big change in case that it might affect them for 1 year. And they don't want to rebuild. So we're just going to be kind of perennially stuck in this loop because they're kind of stuck in between. It's a big problem. Brian Cashman needs to be held accountable, but he never will be because he's a member of the family. But I was really annoyed by that thing. And he was like, and you know, and of course, he then said in the same interview, and do you know, there are people in baseball that are just laughing at the fact that Yankee fans are upset with him. They're laughing at the prospect of him being fired, you know, but that is directly contrary to our previous podcast, which we brought up, Kevin Kernan's article, where he said that there's baseball insiders and there's baseball executives that have seen what a terrible job Brian Cashman has done. Not just with the minor league system, but with the major league system and how he's removed all teachers and anybody that's able to teach and communicate baseball, old school, at the major league level. He's removed them all. So all analytics, all data based, and there are front office executives in baseball, contrary to what Mr. ESPN, who's trying to puff up people's jobs, that are very upset with or very disappointed with whatever Brian Cashman's doing here. People are aware of it, man. We're not idiots. We're not crazy. That's what's happening. But there's some sort of directive in order to push this narrative that Cashman and Boone are untouchable, and it's not right.
Rob?
Give me 1 second, actually. I heard
No, I think you're spot on, and it's not that we're excited to see somebody lose their job. We just want to see a change. We heard the same thing when when they decided not to bring Girardi back. It was all right, even though he was he was favored by the fans. The fans liked him for the most part, but after so many years, it was just the dugout needed a new voice. Maybe it's time that the front office gets a new voice and they move on from Cashman. Because everybody was saying, well, if you let go of Girardi, you're just going to be snatched up in 2 seconds. Good for him then. But we need a new voice in the dugout. If Cashman gets swept up right away from another team, even if it happens to be in Queens, not good. Let them deal with them.
That's it. I mean,
it just we need a new voice. We need a new philosophy.
Change, yeah. But for some reason, according to some members of the media, we're not allowed to wish for improvement. You know what I mean? We're not reaching our goals. It's as simple as that. We have different goals than some other teams. Our goal is to go farther in the playoffs. Other teams are just happy to make it. I understand that, but other teams aren't the Yankees. Other teams don't have
I think the Yankees are happy just to make it at this point.
They are.
I don't think they're driven to win.
Boston are, though. Boston aren't just happy just to make it. They want to make changes. Well, I certainly don't want to be a Yankee fan to promote Boston, but what they're doing is working. What we're doing isn't.
Yeah. Even look at the Astros. They've pretty much been telling everybody for the last 2 years that we cheated to get where we were. We're talented enough where we don't need all that electronic shit. We didn't need all that whole scandal because they were good. They are a good roster. They're driven to win. They want to prove everybody wrong that then they weren't just a fluke of a team.
Yeah.
The Yankees don't have that mentality. They don't have that. Let's prove everybody wrong that we're not a championship caliber team. That we're just a bunch of talented players that just can't come through when it matters.
Well, there's another point that you brought up.
The Yankees need to step up and shut everybody up.
Well, that's another point you brought up there. There's a good point there, man, because it's not also just the manager. I think the personality of this team. There's not a lot of fighters.
No.
In this roster. I'm not saying they're all lazy. Torres is, but there's not a lot of guys that have that strong, unending desire just to win. Garrett Cole's got that. I'll take a whole bunch of Garrett Coles in my team. DJ LeMahieu's been criticized because he's had an off year this year, but he's certainly a dude that you'd want in a championship roster because he's got that mentality. He's a very quiet fighter, but there's not a lot like that in the roster. Judge cares, Stanton certainly cares, but then there's a whole dearth to it, and then we bring in somebody like Rizzo who has leadership and he's actually stepping up, and we're hearing kind of reports that the Yankees are lukewarm on him, and I think it just speaks to the fact that that the organizational philosophy needs to be changed, but also I think a lot of the roster, there's just not a lot of fighters in there. They don't care enough. Let's be honest. People in Boston, that team cares. Tampa, they care. The Astros, they care. Giants, Dodgers, you name it, they're fighting. They're fighting to the end. They're fighting through a brick wall. The Yankees are sort of like, oh, well, we didn't make it. What are we going to do?
No, there's nothing we can do. It's just the way it is. This is what we're going to have to live with. And like, and Rob's making was making great points that Cashman is the one that maybe that's the voice that needs to be changed, because as long as he's running the show between him and Randy Levine, this is just what we're going to be getting year after year. So maybe it's not just a dugout that needs a change. We know Hal's not going to do anything. He hasn't shown that that's the kind of owner he is. He's just going to sit back and just say, let me know what checks to write. You guys handle everything else. And that's actually how a lot of organizations are run. We haven't let go of the George era when he was deeply involved, and where he wanted to win just as much, he was the fan, that wanted to win. That's gone. That's gone. And it's not coming back. And the sooner we realize it, the better off we'll be, the less disappointed we'll be as well.
Well, maybe if the organization just is honest with us, you know what I mean? Because we're still operating on this win or bust mentality, but the organization don't run on that. But yet we're told that that's all they're interested in. Oh, it's World Series or it's a failure.
Well, that's pandering to us, and we're not.
Get that every year, but then when we get embarrassed in the playoffs, it's like, hey, well, you know what? I'm really proud that we made it. So it's a mixed narrative. Maybe if the organization is just honest with us, and we have to suck it up. Hey guys, it's a different baseball world. We can't win championships like we used to anymore. That's just the way of it. We'll just see how we do. I'm just happy just to make the playoffs. Listen, I'm not saying that's what that's right, but it's at least they'll be honest with us, because what they're doing is basically stone cold lying to us that they're interested in winning world championships. They're not. They never have been. They're not been for years.
Believe me, they're not fooling us. They're really not. They think we're fools. We're not just Yankee fans are not just some casual fans you could just kind of wine and dine. It takes a lot more to satisfy a Yankee fan. Rings satisfy Yankee fans, not being invited to the dance. No, we want to wear the crown at the end. That's the bottom line of it.
It just hurts. It hurts, man, because you brought up with an organization that you're incredibly proud of, that you always could trust are trying to do whatever's best to win. But over the last 4 years, certainly the last 2 years, that's not the case anymore. It's about self-preservation and just having nice guys and basically a bunker mentality where you can't see the wood from the trees. And that's what the organization is right now. And it's very hurtful. I don't like going on this podcast ripping the crap out of the team that I love, but I have to be honest. You have to call a spade a spade. What is going on right now is disgraceful.
Yep. No, absolutely. And I think that's actually going to wrap things up for us today. And just want to ask you to like, share, comment, and subscribe. You have been listening to sportnarrative.com/player on SportsWire. Check out our social media descriptions in the below. Just remember, wear your pinstripes with pride and play hard.